Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work with another Wolff Responds. And this time I want to respond to the unfolding horror of what is happening in Texas. And I want to make sure the basic economics of this situation is understood. Energy companies in the United States know that the economy of the United States depends on an enormous steady flow of oil and gas. The last century or more have been spent building up this dependence on those fuels, those sources of energy. In a capitalist economic system where profit is the bottom line, these companies have figured out, those that are involved in oil and gas, how to profit from manipulating and abusing the dependence on energy that they themselves helped to develop. So, for example, the Enron Corporation, several decades ago, used its ability to control the buying, the selling, and transport of energy in the state of California to manipulate the prices and basically to steal huge amounts of money from the people of California until, after a long time and much money taken, they were caught. It broke down, and the state of California discovered that awful lot of people had been hurt. It tried to make good some of the damage that had been done. And the way they did that was to tap all of the people of California. Let me make sure you understand. All of the people of California were required to come up with the money to pay off some of the damage done by Enron as it took and disappeared with the money. Here's how it was done. A surcharge was added to utility bills in and for the people of California. And for 20 years, they have been paying more than they otherwise would have to at least partially offset the losses and damage from what the Enron private capitalist corporation did. Now Texas. In Texas, one of the major producers of oil and gas in the United States, its companies wanted to boost their bottom line profits by making sure that they were not subject to the kinds of oversight and regulation that oil and gas companies are subject to elsewhere in the United States. Regulations and oversight because of the long history of profit-making companies overcharging and underserving their communities. You don't start with regulation. You have regulation when the private sector steals too much. And that happened with utilities long ago. So here's how the companies in Texas got out of it. The rest of the United States divided into two power grids, systems in which the federal government created a block of states who were connected to one another. A problem in one could be helped or solved by moving energy from one to the other and so on, but they were all subject to certain kinds of regulation. The companies in Texas didn't want it. There's more profit if you don't have to have regulations. That's why businesses don't want them. Or the other way of not having them, self-regulation. Yeah, sure. So the Texas companies got Texas to not participate, with the exception of some parts of Texas. But most of Texas does not participate in either of the two national grids. Wow. They have a little local commission that oversees them, a Texas commission. And the reason for that is the energy companies knew that they could, I'll be polite now, influence the local commission a lot easier than it would be to shape a national oversight operation as operated in the two major grids. And so there we have it. Profit-driven energy companies doing what they want with minimal oversight from a local commission whose members they have, again, I'll be polite, influence over. And so they didn't spend the money, which would have hurt profits, to prepare for the cold. They didn't set up a pricing system that would protect people if there was an interruption in the provision of energy. And of course, they couldn't go to the grid to get the energy from elsewhere if their own ability to generate were to be impaired. And all of that happened a few weeks ago when the cold hit. Cold for which they were not prepared. Cold that they did not spend money to get ready for. And then they had the rights under the regulations to pass the cost on. And what was the cost? Well, if you knock out a lot of your energy production, if you can't produce as much energy because pipes are frozen and oil can't be brought out of the ground, well, then the supply of energy goes down and the demand for energy, if anything, goes up because people are trying to cope with the cold. With high demand and low supply, the prices go up, which is why literally over the last 2 or 3 weeks, the weekly cost of energy in Texas went from $4 billion to $50 billion. Wow. Wow. What? Yeah. And everybody has to pay. Many of them haven't even seen their bills yet because the bills come at or shortly after the end of the month. They're going to see, and they are upset. Their bill just went up to thousands and thousands of dollars for the month of February. Extraordinary. And you know what the state of Texas is likely to do, given who they are, given who runs that state, and given the experience of Enron in California, which is why I opened this comment with it? They're likely to figure out a way to bail out some of the damage done. Otherwise, the customers are going to have to spend more. And maybe all of the taxes in Texas that are raised will now have to be raised some more to take care of this problem, to offset the damage done, the losses incurred, the outrageous prices paid. And the bottom line, profit. That's what drives this system. So the next time you hear someone tell you about the wonderful benefits of the profit motive, please keep in mind that the cost of protecting the energy sources in Texas from a cold snap are a tiny fraction of what has now been lost. The profit motive made those decisions happen. Whether it's not preparing for the cold or using your profits to shape the politics of the state with donations and with contributions, and you can fill in the rest. This system is not working. What it would have cost to have produced and stockpiled the tests, the masks, the ventilators, the hospital units, to be properly prepared for corona is a small fraction of what it has cost us in money and now in 500,000 dead fellow Americans. The system is broken. The system isn't working except for the 2 or 3% at the top, the ones who profit, make these cataclysmic profit-driven decisions, and we pay for the failure that results. This is Richard Wolff for Democracy at Work.